Welcome to this explainer. Today I'm putting on my security engineer hat to take you through a pretty critical threat intelligence briefing. We're going to completely dissect a fascinating and honestly highly dangerous Windows vulnerability dealing with user account control, or UAC. If you're an IT pro, a sysadmin, or just someone who really wants to understand how OS security actually works under the hood, you are exactly in the right place. We aren't just going to gawk at how the attack works, we're going to rigorously analyze how to prevent this specific type of privilege escalation and lock down our systems. So let's dive right in.
You know that familiar pop-up, right? The screen dims and Windows asks, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? You hit yes, maybe type in an admin password and just move on with your day. But is that UAC prompt actually secure? Or is it more like a flimsy screen door? Today, we're looking at a specific exploit that completely bypasses this visual prompt. Literally zero user interaction, entirely silent.
Here's our roadmap for today's briefing. 1. Understanding UAC and integrity. 2. Analyzing the privilege escalation vulnerability. 3. Assessing the threat potential. And 4. Core defense and mitigation strategies.
All right, kicking things off with part 1, understanding UAC and integrity.
See, UAC isn't just an annoying pop-up window, it's actually the gatekeeper of system integrity. In the Windows architecture, security isn't solely about who you're logged in as. It's really about the integrity level of the specific process you're running. .prompt, it's just asking for permission to elevate a process from a standard trust level to a higher one, across 4 distinct tiers.
Think of these 4 integrity levels like security clearance badges in a top-secret corporate building. Down at the bottom, you've got low integrity. That's the visitor badge. You're highly restricted and almost always asked for an admin password to do anything. Then, medium integrity. This is the standard employee badge. Roughly 98% of users operate here for everyday tasks. When you do need to do something administrative, this is where you hit that standard yes/no UAC prompt. Next is high integrity, the administrator badge. This grants sweeping system access. And finally, the ultimate clearance, system integrity. We're talking kernel-level access here. The system can do absolutely anything at the deepest operating roots.
So, the absolutely crucial thing to grasp here is the massive gap between medium and high integrity. If an attacker gets stuck at medium, sure, they're annoying, but their blast radius is contained. They can't fundamentally break the machine. But if they cross over into high integrity, the game's pretty much over. A high-integrity process can rewrite the registry, wipe out other user accounts, and control any file. Bridging that gap from medium to high is the holy grail for a local attacker, and it's exactly what this exploit achieves.
Moving right along to Section 2, analyzing the privilege escalation vulnerability.
The attack vector here is frankly incredibly clever. Instead of trying to brute force a password or trick some poor user into clicking yes, the attacker exploits a specific DLL, a dynamic link library file that lives behind the UAC mechanism. They manipulate this DLL using a crafted RPC, or remote procedure call. Put simply, the attacker is whispering directly into the ear of a trusted system component. They completely bypass the need to ever show a prompt on the screen. Let's walk through the exact attack chain, step by step. First, the attacker's script loads a module called NT Object Manager. Next up, it imports a specially crafted XML file made for the RPC request, along with that malicious DLL file we mentioned. Third, the main payload executes. This is usually a PowerShell script, often called run.ps1. This script orchestrates the RPC call to the vulnerable component. And step 4, boom, the vulnerability is triggered and the system silently spawns a command prompt, cmd.exe, running entirely in high integrity. No screen dimming, no pop-ups, just instant, silent, administrative control. Now, as security engineers, we always need to verify our telemetry, right? How does the attacker actually know it worked? Well, they use a built-in Windows command, net session. If you run this from a standard medium integrity prompt, Windows just slaps you with an access is denied error. But if the exploit worked and you're now cruising in high integrity, the command executes flawlessly. It's the ultimate litmus test to prove you've escalated privileges.
Which brings us to Section 3, assessing the threat potential.
The impact of this escalation is just devastating. To quote the intelligence briefing directly, it just opens up like a millennium more doors for them. Imagine a scenario where a user accidentally downloads a remote access Trojan. Initially, that malware is trapped inside medium integrity. But if the attacker pairs that initial infection with this UAC bypass, they instantly get the keys to the kingdom. They can kill your antivirus, drop persistent rootkits, and start moving laterally across your entire network.
And that highlights the most dangerous aspect of this vulnerability, the silence. Traditional security relies so heavily on user awareness. If a random UAC prompt pops up while you're just reading an email, well, a trained user is going to hit no and call IT. But a silent escalation? It robs us of that human firewall. The attacker gains total system control invisibly. This is exactly why relying only on user prompts is a fundamentally flawed security architecture.
Let's get to the most important part. Section 4. Core Defense and Mitigation Strategies.
All right, here's your actionable defense-in-depth mitigation checklist. First, and I know it sounds basic, but it is paramount, keep Windows proactively up to date. These specific DLL and RPC vulnerabilities get patched frequently. Second, enable Windows Defender Tamper Protection. Third, lock down PowerShell. Restrict the execution of unsigned scripts so you can stop the attack chain at step 1. And finally, rigorously apply the principle of least privilege. Remove unnecessary local administrators. If a user's basic account isn't in the admin group to begin with, UAC bypasses become significantly harder, if not basically impossible to pull off.
Let's double-click on that second point. Windows Defender Tamper Protection isn't just some generic shield. Telemetry shows it actively detects and blocks this exact proof of concept's DLL and RPC behavior. By turning on tamper protection, you harden the security subsystem. So even if a malicious script tries to inject a payload into a trusted UAC process, the endpoint detection steps in and intercepts it. Honestly, this is a non-negotiable feature for modern enterprise environments.
Look, the reality of our industry is that it's an unending arms race. The attacker's arsenal relies on stacking these exploits over time. They find a tiny crack in an RPC call, write a script, and weaponize it. Our job, the defender's shield, requires proactive patching and constant vigilance. You can't just set up a firewall and go to lunch. You have to understand the mechanisms of integrity and close those loopholes before they're exploited at scale. So I'm going to leave you with this final, critical question. Is your defense mechanism truly ready for the next escalation attack? Do you have tamper protection enabled right now? Are your PowerShell policies audited? Please, don't wait for a silent alarm to go off when it's already too late. Take the mitigation strategies we analyzed today, review your architecture, and harden your systems immediately. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Stay secure out there, and I'll catch you in the next one.